love you for the rest of my life.
Just love me for the rest of mine.
Please, you have to believe me. I loved her.
What does it feel like to get away with murder?
Commandant, to save your soul!
I should ask the devil to punish whoever killed her.
You know, you don't have to convince me. I believe you.
Why are you protecting me? Because if I did anything to her, then I'm a monster.
So watching this movie, it reminded me of like those great fantasy horror films that I used to watch when I was a kid, with like kind of a modern murder mystery thrown in. Since you've been kind of like toying with the horror genre for the past over 10 years now, were you that kid that was watching horror films with like a big popcorn in hand? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like what inspired you to kind of go with this direction in your career?
I was completely that kid. I was like really. I remember I met my. I was watching movies on my own growing up and going to my video club and getting all the movies I can watch, because of course I was too young to see all movie in theaters, so I could rent them at least. And but then it's really when I met my best friend, writing partner and producing partner, that we start at the age of 10, like going from, like basically like attacking one video club and emptying all the shelf one after the other, and finding another place where we can find like VHS of other movies that we never saw, and we were like actually like going like 2-3 movies back to back, hitting like caramel popcorn and just like having such a great time. That's really the time where I kind of like fed the most my, I guess, imagination and that, like somehow when you do movies like Ons or Piranha or even High Tension or The Hills of Ice, is always a component is the nostalgia of that time, of discovering those stories and making those movies. By making those movies, I'm going back to that experience of those movies when I was a kid, watching them, in VHS.
Yeah. What were some of those movies that you used to watch?
Poof, there is so many of them. I've been, we saw like thousands of movies at that time. I think like the Elm Streets, like were like absolutely one of our stronger experience. Like Pet Sematary was another one, but all the classics, all the horror classics, like the 90s when we grew up were quite uninteresting in the genre, and so all the pleasure, all the excitement came from all those movies from the 80s and 70s and that we were like discovering in the video club.
Yeah, it's very interesting to like watch movies from like the 50s, like those classic horror films, and then watching like the modern ones to see like what scares people today, and it's constantly changing. What do you think is like the big difference of like what it takes to scare people back then to now?
There is something specific to the genre, which is that fear needs to be reinvented all the time, because an horror movie plays on preconceived feeling. Like, you don't watch an horror movie without any other reference. You watch horror movie in the light of everything you saw before. So there is some code, like there's like a grammar somehow, a visual like a grammar that tell you that like when the music gets into that place and when like the character is slowing down, something is going to jump or something is going to make you jump. But if you keep doing the same thing, you just get people bored because they know exactly what's going to happen. So it's a genre that needs to reinvent itself all the time. And that's why it's so alive, because the filmmaker behind are just always playing with the fear. But it's a loop, It's like in the 70s, people like Wes Craven and Tobe Hooper and John Boorman and so many like created like an intensity in movies that didn't exist before. Like The Exorcist was like more intense than anything been done before, like The Shining, and that intensity was then kind of vanished into more like a postmodern quoting other movies style that were like the late 80s to the 90s. And so when filmmakers like Eli Roth or like Rob Zombie or Neil Marshall or myself decided to start making movies and pay tribute to those movies from the 70s, we went back to this kind of intensity, like straightforward, that was really supposed to be scary and disturbing and kind of shocking. And then 10 years after, you can see that there is some kind of something more pop that came back.
Right.
And somehow we are revisiting like this 80s, 90s like style, and I guess in 10 years from now, like some people will come back and do hardcore stuff again.
Absolutely. And to kind of get to your film, like my favorite bits in Horns were the flashback scenes where you get to know Ig and Marin and get to see like the things that they do when they were young that kind of led up to the kind of people that they are in the present. What were some of those things that you did when you were at that young age? Because that's like, when you're that young, there's things that happen in your life that kind of stick with you for a lifetime, and I'm wondering, like, what are some of those things for you that still kind of stick with you?
It's definitely, you know, I strongly believe that that somehow the kids are the parents of the adults. You know, like basically whatever happened to you when you're kids is going to generate, you know, what you're going to be as an adult being, and that's something that I really love in Joe Hill's novel, was the explanation, the kind of like few different time frame, but basically going back to this like 12-year-old time frame, because it was the genesis of everything and the reason why everyone is who they are in the story, and why that horrible murder is happening, and all that stuff. So on my personal life, I kind of also, I think that, you know, what I did when I was that age, 12, when we were like going to, with my best friend, we were like going to his like countryside house of mine, and spending a lot of time, you know, like playing the Goonies and doing like crazy stuff, but also starting writing stories and putting stories together, is really like exactly the genesis of who we became today, making movies as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I know this was brought up during the Q&A last night, but I didn't get to catch the last bit of the answer. But how did you approach like working with Daniel Radcliffe, since he's known for Harry Potter? Like, is there like any kind of advice that maybe you gave him, or specific directions to kind of like break away from that role? But he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
With like the Woman in Black.
He's the most hardworking actor that I ever worked with. He's like make everything feel so natural and easy for him, but I know that he's in, you know, he thought about every bit. My work as a director is not to I'm not here to be a tyrant. I'm not here to say you're doing this and this and this and you're going from there. I'm here to help him and help all the other ones as well, to give the best performance, to put them in context of the story, to suggest and play with them, and try to create. I like the collaboration. I think, you know, what I like the most in making movies is working with people, very talented people, from the DP to the production designer to the editor to the composer, and of course the actors, to work with a group of people and all together, like stimulating them to bring the best result and make the best movie possible. So yes, I mean, my job was not to say be different, because
right.
I would have been stupid, you know. I understood when I cast him that he was the character already in his personal life. So my job was to try to make him comfortable enough so he can deliver and bring who he was, his own personality to the character. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think that's what makes his performance so unique, is because you see a Daniel Radcliffe that you never seen before, that shows and displays such a different range of emotion and skill as an actor. I mean, Harry Potter was the beginning of something. Horns shows that, you know, like his career is ahead of us.
We gotta figure out who really killed Marin and get him to confess.
Ig, I would never hurt her.
Tell me everything that happened.
Admit you killed her. It'd be such a huge scoop for me.
I got an idea. How about you guys beat the heck out of each other, and the winner gets an exclusive interview with me?
What's that snake doing around your neck?
Made a new friend.
Are those horns?
Damn right, they're horns.